We're going to talk about family. And whenever anybody comes in and talks about family, there are times when people say, oh, great, my family's not perfect and the guy's going to beat me up. People say, wait, I've already raised a family, or I don't have a family, I'm a student, and you do have a family, but you don't have your own children yet, hopefully. And yet, the truth of the matter is that even though you look really good right now, you're all dressed up, most of you took a shower, maybe you look like paradise, I don't know. But right below the surface of paradise is pain. There is not one family represented here that does not have pain. I came from a family where there was alcoholism. I'm a first-generation Christian. I became a Christian when I was a teenager. My dad was an alcoholic. My mom was the total codependent. She was actually not only married to my dad, an alcoholic, but her father had died of cirrhosis of the liver. I have 3 brothers, 2 of them are alcoholics. Met my wife in college. Her family is just classic dysfunctional. She was also a first-generation Christian. So we don't have it together. We're messy at times. I speak on family. I write books on marriage and family, and yet, there's times when our house isn't exactly perfect.
Mom, can I go see a movie with Jacob?
Are you already done with your homework?
Yeah.
All of it?
Well, most of it.
Then no.
I'm gonna have to go in for tutoring in the morning. I did as much as I can.
You haven't even cleaned your room or done your homework or anything.
I can clean it really quick. Please? Can I have some money?
Money? I just asked you an hour ago to fold some laundry, but you decided to get on the internet. And now you want money for the movies? I don't think so.
But Mom.
I said no.
Fine. If I fold the laundry, can I have some money?
No. I'm not even talking about it until you do what I asked you to do, okay?
Fine, I'm giving her until you fold the stupid laundry.
Hello?
Hey, Jacob.
Are you coming?
No, I don't know yet.
Jessica, you cannot miss this movie. You sure you can't sneak out?
Yeah, I'll call you later when I figure it out.
Fine. Be a loser and stay at home.
Bye.
Bye.
Mom, is this money yours?
Now, fast forward the illustration. My daughter, Christy, who's now 28, but when she was 17, total, articulate. My mother called her a spitfire, and I'm not exactly sure what that means, but it did just explain who she was. And one time she was in an argument with my wife. I'd call it an argument, except my wife wasn't talking. It was just Christy talking. And she was 17, and she was just railing on poor Kathy. And I was being the passive-aggressive husband. I was in the other room listening and going, oh, my goodness. And then Christy would even say something. I go, it's kind of true about Kathy, but I would never say that to my wife, When finally I realized Christy was escalating, I walked in, did what I should have done earlier, and said, Christy, you need to get to your room right now. And she saw the dad look. So she turned, and I thought she was going to say, hey, my bad, Dad, I'm so sorry. My mistake. I was escalating, and, gosh, I don't know what came over me. In other words, but she didn't. She turned on me. Well, now it got personal. It wasn't personal when she was talking to Kathy. So I said, Christy, you need to go to your room right now. I know you're 17, but you're going to take a time out because I don't want to see you right now. And she slammed the kitchen door. We have a sign that says, bless this house. It went crooked. Just stays crooked. So I followed her up there, and I said, Christy, I want to talk about Mom. I said, you're right about some of the things. And so, of course, at 17, she's going, cool, Dad's on my side. But I said, Christy, Mom is the person in my life who I've seen grow the most spiritually, and I mean that about my wife, Kathy. I've been married to her since 1974. We were children, of course. And Kathy started in deficit land because of the dysfunction that she came from her family. And even though some of you were raised in the church, you still have plenty of dysfunction in your family, too. Dysfunction just means broken. And Kathy started here, and by the time I met her in college, she was sure growing, but she's actually the person in my life, I mean this, who's grown the most. I've never seen anybody grow as much as Kathy. And it's part of that decision to recover instead of repeat. And I think she does it partly for herself and partly for God and partly for our kids. So I said to Christy, Christy, Mom starts here and she continues to grow. It's remarkable. You're so fortunate to have a mom like your mom, even though you were pretty tough on her right there. And I said, we've never said this to you, but for all of our marriage, we've talked about something that we call the transitional generation. And I explained to her that the Bible says you inherit the sins of a previous generation, third and fourth. And I said, so Mom decides to recover and not repeat. She's going to make mistakes and she's going to have her moments just like I do and frankly, just like you do. But I said, so Mom starts here and we'll get to here and continue to grow, but this is Mom. And she's doing it partly so, Christy, you can start here someplace in the middle and you can move farther than Mom or Dad ever could. And she welled up with tears because she got it. She understood that we were the transitional generation, that she wasn't, frankly. She had to still make the same decisions to have a good family, and to have a good life, and make good decisions to be in alignment with God and the whole bit. But the truth of the matter is that Kathy was breaking the chain of dysfunction in one generation.
Jake Farnsworth here, Team Stuntman. I'm about to attempt the most difficult stunt yet, spending time with my family 5 minutes in public.
Time!
You did it, man, you did it.
You're all right.
That was good.
Here you go. Here's some water. Just breathe.
Somebody call the Guinness Book of World Records!
Okay. Now, some of you who are in junior high sitting over on this side, you bless your parents. And again, some of your parents would just love for you to hang out with them because right now they're not cool. I realize that. Okay. In fact, my daughter Becca, who's in the back, you got to meet her. She's at the Homeward, book table, and you can learn more about our ministry. It's right next to, I hope, where you're going to sign up for the Creating an Intimate Marriage thing. But Becca was driving one time with me. I'm driving, and she's about 17, and she goes, Dad, all of my friends think you are the coolest dad. And I'm like, I'm so proud. My head's getting big. She goes, so-and-so, thinks this, so-and-so, and she's naming what they think. So, my head is, I'm driving, and I am so impressed with myself. I make the big mistake. You know what it was? I turned to Becca and say, do you think I'm cool? No. You won't let me do this, you won't let me do that, and, you're bald, and, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry about being bald. There's nothing I can do on that, okay? So, all of a sudden my head just shrinks back like crazy. But I want to say that you bless kids with your presence. And some of you grandparents, please do not walk away right now from those kids and learn how to do the internet if you can't email or text or tweet or whatever, because your presence makes a difference. In fact, authorities say that children, listen to this, regard your very presence as a sign of caring and connectedness. Now, they're not going to say that when they're in junior high, hardly at all, but it's still the most important thing. You know what the greatest fear of a junior high or high schooler is? That their parents would die. Okay? And you think, no, it's peer pressure, it's this or that. No, it's still very connected to parents. So we bless children with our presence. Presence matters. My mom died a number of years ago now, and very neat lady, actually, incredible lady, not perfect by any means, became a Christian. It's interesting, through our life, talking about the first generation and the transitional generation, then we've seen people in our family become Christians. Both Mom and Dad did before they died. And I'm there in hospice. My mom was in the house, and it was Mom and Dad's house, and I'm getting there most every day. I went back to sleep or whatever. It was about 45 seconds when all of a sudden she gets up again and she says, Jimmy, where's your dad? It was almost like she was irritated. So I started to stand up. I said, well, Dad's in the other room. Can he help you? He's watching a baseball game. She said, no. She said, Jimmy, I never liked baseball. I went, Mom, you never liked baseball? What do you mean you never liked baseball? Did you ever miss a game of mine, La Palma Little League in Anaheim, California? No, I don't think I ever missed a game. Mom, you didn't miss a Pony League game, a junior high game, a high school game, an American Legion game. You went to all of my games. You even went to the away games. You went to practices. What do you mean you don't like baseball? My brother Bill played for the Chicago White Sox. Remember when he was in the minor leagues? He was in Sarasota, Florida, and other places, and we bought a shortwave radio so we could hear his voice. Dad and I would get bored, and you'd listen to, not his voice, but his name, and you'd hear it all scratchy, but Bill Burns now batting. And you'd get all excited. What do you mean you don't like baseball, Mom? she looked at me as if I was like crazy, and she said, well, Jimmy, I didn't go there to watch baseball. I went there to be with you. And I realized that it was the power of being there. You junior hires don't get that yet, but it's that. Moms, dads, you practice the power of being there. Many of you are. And it's going to come through. It'll still be messy. It's not going to be perfect. But we bless children with our presence because, as I said, children regard your very presence. That's what Jesus did. He allowed the little children to come. Affection is a part of that. A lot of marriages crave affection. They're not getting it either. And so when we think about this, we have to understand that, if it takes 8 to 10 meaningful touches a day for a person to thrive, so says UCLA, that we as families need to be people of affection. And if we're not people of affection, then we're going to have to, sometimes go out of our comfort zone. A young girl, she's 17 years old. I've written a whole series of books on sexuality for kids from 3 to 5 to, teenagers. And this particular young girl is 17. Her mom thought I could fix her because she was caught in the act in her parents' bedroom during school. Mom came home from work, and there she was. And, neat kid, went to a Christian school, leader in her youth group, was making some poor choices. And so they bring the girl in. She did not want to come and meet with me, I'll guarantee you. And the dad and the mom come, they're mad. And so they start telling me the story, which I'd already heard from the mom, and the dad is now telling it, and he gets so upset and so riled up that he calls her a bad name. So the girl starts crying. It's not working. It's not the greatest, biblical counseling method. And so I asked the parents after he called her the bad name, because I went, this is not going to go anyplace. I said, hey, would you guys mind stepping out and maybe, just you can have a soda or tea or water or something. I want to talk to your daughter. And I have 3 daughters myself, so of course we have no hormones and drama in our life with all those girls. And so I do know what an eye roll is, and I hadn't seen this girl's eyes yet because they were still down, but I felt the eye roll. She didn't want to talk to me, and so I did this. I said, hi. And I said, that was tough, wasn't it? I didn't expect this answer. She said, well, I used to be close to my dad. I wasn't asking her about her dad. Her dad had been tough on her. She said, when my, her career, she was a all-state tennis player. But when my tennis first started, it was my dad who taught me, and he'd play tennis with me every day, and I know he was tired from work, and he'd come home and he'd hang out with me, and it was so special, and he was the one who would read books to me, and he would put me on his knee, and he would do this little number, and it was a little jingle, and she said the jingle, cool 17-year-old girl kind of doing this, funny jingle, and we laughed, actually, because she looked so nerdy doing it. And but she said, you know what, Jim, and I didn't know she even knew my name, because we really hadn't connected. She said, Jim, when my dad would come home from work, wherever I was, I would come running up to my dad, and sometimes I'd even come from behind him, and he'd just lift me up and he'd say, how's my little princess? And then when she said the word princess, her lip began to quiver, and she said, I guess I'm not his princess anymore. And it broke her up, because he really said some tough stuff. She goes, it is true, I've done all this stuff, but there you go. Well, it was an awkward silence, and then we talked for a little bit more. I brought the parents back in, and I said to the dad, my friend, how is your relationship with your daughter? And he got tender for a moment. He said, we used to be close. I'm the one who taught her how to play tennis, as if I just hadn't heard it. I read her books. We wrestled. I'm, the one who would put her on my knee, and then he does the little jingle. And so now, we've heard it the same time 5 minutes before, and the girl and I are laughing at the dad doing the little, jingle. And then he put his hand on his wife's hand, not on his daughter's hand, and said, you know what, Jim, though, one of the greatest things in my life, and I till the day I die, I will love this, is that when I would come home from work, she'd come running up, and I'd lift her up, and I'd say, how's my little princess? And when he said the word princess, his lip began quivering. I think we had hereditary lip quivering going on. He said, but then, she's kind of copped an attitude as if when you're a certain age, you can't shower your children with affection. And I said to that man, my friend, if you, and I'm looking at his wife too, if you don't give your daughter plenty of affection, there are hundreds, and I looked at her, she was so beautiful, there are thousands of boys who would love to give her inappropriate affection and more. And what I want to say to some of you is, if your family background is a place where you don't give affection, I'm not saying make it totally awkward and weird. I'm just saying Jesus gave them affection by touch. There's power in touch. And so the family that does that feels more secure. In fact, we have studies now of kids who are sexually promiscuous, and I'm not saying it's the only answer, but for kids who are not sexually promiscuous, many times they have felt great security and affection from home and from grandparents and appropriate ways from the youth group and things like that. Next, I know I can't be an effective father to my children if I'm running my life at too fast of a pace. And the fact of the matter is that one of the biggest problems in America is this breathless pace in which we live our lives. When I graduated from seminary many moons ago, a friend of mine who's now the pastor of First Baptist Winston-Salem, but we were in seminary together, I left and didn't stay for the graduation. And he wrote me a note and he said, "Dear Jim, if the devil can't make you bad, he'll make you busy. Love, David." It's funny, I was speaking at a national pastors conference and David was at the conference and we went out for Mexican food. There's kind of a theme in my life, Mexican food. And we went out for Mexican food and he was talking about his pace of life margin as a senior pastor in a very large church in Winston-Salem. And I said, "Hey, you gave me a great idea." He said, "What was it?" I said, "Well, you wrote me a note. You said, if the devil can't make you bad, he'll make you busy." He goes, "That's good. I need that. Where is that?" You know, he wrote it down. But for a lot of us, we're so busy doing important things that we miss the most important things. And actually, we're going to talk about it at the Creating an Intimate Marriage seminar because we become overcommitted and we become underconnected, and that's a problem. In fact, I was telling the previous service that in a book that I wrote called Confident Parenting, I quote a study out of Harvard that says this generation of kids, so that would be these kids and all these beautiful kids all around here, they have 12 less free hours a week than just the previous generation. That's remarkable, but that's also a big-time problem. Okay? And the big-time problem is that our families are too busy. And so we get fatigued. And it was that great theologian who was the coach of the Green Bay Packers at one time named Vince Lombardi who said, "Fatigue makes cowards of us all. And I'm a lousy husband and I'm a lousy father when I'm fatigued." See? But we're running our life at too fast of a pace. And I thought it was just in Southern California where I live or New York or wherever. No, it's here, big time here.